So, welcome everybody to another episode of the Cole Memo. If you don't know why it's called the Cole Memo, I recommend either Googling the Cole Memo or if you pause your screen, if you're watching the episode, you can see the explanation right there. And by the way, if you're listening and you would like to watch the episode, there's going to be a link in the show notes, which will allow you to see any links that we might reference during the show, as well as allow you to watch the video version of this episode. My next guest is going to like the fact that I still smoke a lot, but I'm starting to kick the habit because not only with the help of mushrooms, but hemp derived beverages. Special shout out to River Bluff Collective. I'm drinking my cannabis now instead of smoking it. Doesn't that make you happy, Dr. Lee? You used to tell me back in the day, Cole, you really shouldn't be smoking as much unless you really need to.
I still smoke a joint once in a while. I'm
Yeah,
not
no, but
above
I
it.
always appreciated the health focused approach because I know that's the truth. I mean, smoking things is not good, generally speaking.
Yeah,
So yeah, just wanted to quickly again, River Bluff Collective. If you want to get beverages, drinks, edibles, and
I
more,
do want that. And
riverbluffcollective.com.
yeah, we've come a
So
long time, a long way since the marijuana industry originally was when we first started hanging out. It's a lot,
isn't that
especially now
crazy?
that I'm in Oregon, things are really, really cheap. It makes it a lot easier to do edibles.
Yeah. Well, hey, remind people who you are. You know, if they've seen the Chillinois podcast, they know who you are. But some people are new listeners. Please remind people who you are, Dr. Lee.
My name is Dr. Lee. I graduated with a doctorate in medicine in 2015, and my career was really kind of unpredictable. I practiced through the pandemic, and then I started Green Mind Physicians, which is a telemedicine business. And in 2023, I sold it. And that funded my current work, which is Space Psychedelic Clinic here in Portland, Oregon, where we see psilocybin patients. Well, I'm not supposed to call them patients, clients. Um, we see them 7 days a week, and it's going really well.
Perfect. And if people want to go online, how would they just Google the name that you just said? How would they do that?
Yes, it's space like outer space, and our website is spaceportland.com. Excuse me, I got the hiccups right now. They should go away.
Oh, it's all good.
Uh,
Horrible timing on the
spaceportland.com, and our logo is a little planet, and that is the situation.
awesome. I'm displaying the website on the screen right now. I'll have it in the show notes. And Dr. Lee, you kind of mentioned it beforehand that sometimes, the show helps you reach new people. Am I correct in remembering that you said that maybe some of your first clients were listeners of the Cole Memo?
Yeah, they sure were, and they were from Illinois, and it was just very surprising that that kind of connection happened. But it was one of the first like 10 people that came through the clinic.
Yeah, and since then it sounds like you've been doing pretty damn well for yourself, if I might say so myself.
Yeah, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and I'm really just running the same exact playbook. Is find a way to be the cheapest in town and um, spend time with people, and really, that's the core of it all. And there's some other factors in play at this point with the state of the industry being what it is right now. I think a lot of people have really, designed their businesses and they've designed themselves into a corner. So um, it doesn't really feel like there's a ton of competition.
Interesting. Interesting. So there are not very many operators at this point like yourself.
Oh, there's 30, but the standard of care is really like, um, so we're not just selling mushrooms, we're selling whole service too, and it involves one-on-one care with the facilitator. So overall, I think we covered this the first time too. There's expenses involved, and it does like you have to pay a specialized person, and they take most of what I charge home. Like the facilitators take 2/3 of what we take home. Um, Other service centers in general for a psilocybin experience they've settled in the like $3,000 range. It's pretty wild. We're charging $900. It is still a lot of money, but it's the lowest by far. It's like I think the next the next lowest is like a little under 2,000, but the norm is like 2,500 to 3,000. Um, so that was just never my dream. It just seems crazy to offer that as a service and not really have anywhere to go with it price wise. And at the same time, like it's expensive to do what we do. So if you run your business with like traditional economic principles, you probably end up with the same price point. Um, I was getting ready to open this place with the same thing, and like right before we opened, I was like, no, I can't do it. I refuse. So I went back to the drawing board and I came up with what we have now. And um, I had to wait to see some facilitators that were like willing to do what I was doing because people were really used to like charging shitload for services. But at this point, I think it's pretty clear that it's not hard to price compare. It's really not that hard in this day and age. People are gonna find out what the prices are, and
Yeah, before I would come out to Oregon, that's something I'd figure out.
yeah,
You know,
100%,
like
100%. And there's fundamentally, it's not going to be like the most incredible difference between businesses. If someone is to say that their $4,000 business is like slightly fancier than mine, I'd be like, okay, but like the core service, but you're still really overcharging for it. So that's really my big thing, and I've kind of beaten it into the ground, but it's really working for us. We don't do a ton of advertising. We're booked. That's what you
yeah.
want.
From from an insider's perspective, since you are one of like 30 people, what do you think the state of Oregon could do to reduce barriers and to make, I'm not obviously less competition is, not a problem, but also on the flip side, I think you would admit, Dr. Lee, sometimes more competition makes you a stronger operator. And I'm just curious, what do you think the state of Oregon could do to like make it a little bit more accessible from a business perspective and consumer perspective, I think.
It
That's a big one.
doesn't really have to do with the number of operators. Like the state law is going to change at the end of the year to allow out-of-state operation too.
Oh,
So there's going to be a lot of people coming in from out of state, and by and large, they're going to try the same thing. They're going to try to do this expensive luxury thing. It's just not going to work. So it doesn't really matter in a way. People have really settled on that price point for whatever reason. I think there's a lot of different reasons. Some people just really want to make money, and like that's they're thinking that this is going to be the same as marijuana, where the money is just like constantly inflowing. Um, and then on the other side of things, there's a different kind of operator that is like maybe a family or a few people, and they are underpowered. Like they can't own their property, they don't have enough money in the bank, they can't offer good deals. They have to do what they do because they don't have enough power. So there's like two different types of operator that are going on. Neither of them is going to get it done at the end of the day. They're still charging $3,000. So I don't know. It's not really my job to, fix what other people are doing or even like influence them. I just do what I think makes sense. And
no, I feel you that. I just meant like on like this because you're making a great point about like what other people do, but like I just meant like the state, like is is the state making it harder for these things to open? But it sounds like your answer maybe to that was no, because there's these out of staters coming
no, the
and stuff.
state, it takes a lot of vision to do, sorry to pat myself on the back, but it takes a lot of vision to do this. Like it takes, it's risky. No one else was doing it. Like who would ever slash the price like this and like expect it to work? So I don't really think of it unless people watch this podcast and really dig into the details.
Yeah.
But I don't really think of anyone as being like capable of doing that. And then at the same time, will probably change the most is if insurance decides to cover it. Now we're in Oregon where psychedelic acceptance and usage is really high. People, my plumber used it, my carpenter used it, like everyone who comes through has used mushrooms. Um, Sooner Care covers stuff that is kind of wacky. You know, like it covers acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. So like, why wouldn't it cover, you know, with those cultural things in mind, why wouldn't it cover psychedelic care? So that would really change things because it would allow us to accept sooner care clients who are by and large poor people. That's really different from the mix of clients that we're seeing right now. And that's what you need in the world. You need to find a way to give access to people that are not taken care of in other ways. You know, when I see these people from out of state that are rich. I'm getting into another thing, but
Yeah,
like
I
what
get
I'm
you.
trying to say is like access is probably going to depend on an insurer approving psychedelic care, and it what if it's a major insurer? What if Aetna decides to do it? What if like AT&T decides to
Yeah.
send all their employees here? Like, who knows what could
But I
happen?
guess
Six
what
of
you're
them.
to your point, like that kind of extends with all healthcare too. It's like it seems like our access to healthcare is really limited, by our insurance. I've had experiences, unfortunately, my friends have had experiences in recent past where it's like you'd go somewhere to get something done, and they're like, you're not in network or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like
Yeah, it's
I
really
I got to
stupid.
get something done here. You know what I mean? So to your point, I didn't even think about the fact that it's almost not even unique to mush. I mean, it is unique to mushrooms in some ways, but it's almost not in other ways. Do you get me?
Yeah, and it just makes you want so much more. Like, you know that this is such an important thing in life, and like I really do think the psychedelic experience is like core to being, you know, functional human. It really is. And like it makes you want it for everyone. Like it doesn't really seem fair in the way the legal thing has rolled out, but that's why there should be like several entry points into psychedelics. You know, it's not my goal to sell a $900 trip anytime someone wants to use a mushroom.
Oh, did I lose you? Pause the recording. I think I
Way
lost you.
of using psych.
All right, we just had a connection difficulty. Just wanted to acknowledge that. But to get back to your point, we were talking about
Mhm.
multiple points of access.
Yeah.
Just that concept in Oregon
Exactly.
or
And
anywhere.
we've legalized only this very specific way to use psychedelics called psychedelic facilitation, where you have to be in a center with a trained professional, and the center has to be certified, and the product has to be certified. Everything is very regimented. Um, is that the only way that we should be able to use psychedelics? Definitely not. But it's what gets legalized. It's what gets passed. Colorado has plans to do pretty much the same thing. And then you look at states like Massachusetts and Connecticut who had initiatives to get on the ballot, but their initiatives were a little too overreaching. They included things like home grow, and people really aren't ready for that yet. So like what we're doing, you know, it is kind of the radical thing. It's not how I ever use psychedelics. I would never ever do this. Well, I'm not gonna say never. I have never done it yet, and I don't feel a great compulsion to use psychedelics in this way.
Hmm.
I'm more of a good time guy,
Sure.
and it works for me. But if you're gonna use it as if you're gonna offer it as a service, and if you're going to follow the evidence, which is also important, then psychedelic care in this way, this really slow, considerate way with a facilitator in a center, you know, it still has its role in the world for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the I meant to ask you about this last time. Are the regulations changing like all the time? Are they kind of static like the Illinois cannabis regulations are? What's it like operating in Oregon?
I would say that it's fine. I don't find it too bad. I don't find it like super pro business. I think it's fine. The system definitely errs on caution, which it probably should. Um, but it gives us, you know, fine amount of space to operate in. I'm not feeling like the ton of oversight or pressure or anything. I think it seems fine. Um, They have really specific rules about like how much time they have to spend at our center, like clients have to spend at our center, and um, they do like you to inconvenience your client a little bit. Like even though they've paid all this money to be with you, like they can't bring in certain kinds of food and they can't do a bunch of different kinds of things. It's a little obnoxious.
What kind of
So
things? Like what can't they do?
you can only bring in prepackaged food. I can't prepare anything.
Okay.
So even certain preparations of mushrooms that we would want to do, we have to make them do this little song and dance where they're kind of doing it.
Mm.
Um, not being able to, uh, it's not being able to drive, but that's not the same thing. You can't drive after mushrooms.
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't let
Um,
you like drive to the clinic, is that what you're saying, or what?
no, I shouldn't even brought that up. That's not the same thing at all.
Oh, okay. I thought you were I thought we can move on, but I thought you were saying that like if I booked a clinic with you that I wasn't allowed to drive
You can't
just
drive
there for the
after.
appointment. Of course not after, but to
No.
the appointment.
I mean, if you can't drive after, why would you drive to?
Good
Then you're
point.
just leaving the car here.
Fair.
So that's a rule that exists for a reason, in contrast to the other rule about food that I said. Um, and then s- there's just some minor stuff with like the surveillance. It's lifted from the marijuana stuff. All the rules are like you can see the exact same syntax. Cameras have to be over every window, even the ones that aren't used. I have so many
So is there
windows that just
cameras
have,
in your room right now
yeah.
besides this one?
Oh, it's on the other side. It can't be inside. It has to
Oh,
be
okay.
outside. Yeah,
Oh,
but there's just like we're fucked up with cameras. We have cameras everywhere. Um, I mean, that's just the way it is. Everything is pretty well described in the rules to a T, and that's not for everyone, but that's the way the legal system is.
yeah. No, and it seriously doesn't sound like it's everyone for like, oh, especially like the cameras. Like I'm sure that stuff is not cheap. Um, how do you how do you keep your costs down with like not, not trying to get you to spill all the sauce, but like I am curious, how do you keep your costs down in spite of like really heavy-handed regulations in some instances?
The cameras are actually pretty cheap. Camera
Oh,
like
the
screening
cannabis
based.
operators in Illinois all the time bitch about maybe they have like higher spec requirements or something like that, but they're like, man, our cameras, they cost so much, the security requirement, they go on and on.
They can't do it themselves. They probably pay a contractor and they're probably getting reamed out the ass. You pretty much have to do it all yourself if you want to be a good small business owner. And I'm just a fucking dog. I'll do anything. I do our landscaping. I do our website. I renovated this fucking building. Like there's nothing that I won't do. I am the employee, which means I don't have to pay anyone. That pays a huge part in what our bottom line is. So I'm in the clinic every single day, operating the day-to-day tasks and doing things. Um, that's important to keep costs down, but like as a business owner, it also like tells me what to do to make the business better. And I make changes pretty regularly, like almost every week. So that's just like it's just part of being a good business owner. And then the other thing is that I own the building. So we're dealing with um, and I'm the only owner. All those things together, it's really like now I get to choose. Like I have the power. I
Yeah.
don't have the pressure of a mortgage. I don't have another owner telling me what to do. I I just run the show and I make all the decisions. And that is what we're dealing with. And I don't think other businesses are the same way. And just nothing I described is the same for another business. There's no one else doing what I do. And uh, I guess I just stayed crazy enough to want to keep the price low.
Yeah, no, you kind of reminded me of there's this for the first time, and it's funny because it's not funny, it's actually kind of depressing, but 4 years into legalization, I'm pretty sure this is the first family-backed dispensary that I've ever heard of just opened. I had the owner on for episode
Mm,
142. She said she worked multiple jobs. She opened up the first cannabis consumption lounge in Illinois, which was really cool. We recorded a podcast from there one time, and she recently opened up this her own dispensary. And yes, she did it with all of her own money from family as well, but like as you said, they had to like build the walls. They did all the maintenance. They did not contract it out because, as you say, like that's where you get a lot of expenses. So you kind of got to get crafty and do it yourself to be a
Yeah.
real, you know, if you're gonna do it yourself, you better do it yourself,
Yeah.
right?
And it's just, we're not just dealing with like a camera contractor. It's probably a marijuana camera contractor, which means that they're even more expensive because they understand what's going on. There's money to be made in this
Right.
industry. And there's a lot of shitty little businesses that are trying to contact me on the regular too. And so
Yeah. I have them too, like with
deaf
the
ears.
website, they like point something out about my website and they're like, we could do this, blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, I'll just take note of what you just pointed out and fix it and um I'll
Yeah.
I'll do that
Thanks for the
myself.
help.
Right, right. I'm not gonna pay. I try my best to do all the work myself. The most I'll pay somebody is like when I've worked with artists in the past. You got to pay
Yeah.
artists,
Oh, for sure.
um, because that's what they do. But anyways, yeah, well that's super interesting to hear, man. That's super interesting to hear. And like you say, you almost took the playbook from Green Mind Physicians and now you're doing it over there. And
I
do you
know
do
you would
do
have
you do a
think
lot of
you would have
podcasts
thought
and stuff or
you would have thought the success would have gone to my head and I would have become like a crazy rich person, but I'm not. I just stayed the same.
Debbie, but
Um,
yeah,
I
I'm just
don't.
curious,
I do
like,
not do anything that is not like offered to me directly,
okay,
which
fair.
is probably a huge mistake because there's a big appetite for psychedelic content right now. Um, and I'm just such a shit talker. Like I hate everybody else so much. I would love to just talk a bunch of shit about the industry and
You should start a podcast.
just all of it.
Or you should just come on regularly. We have like a 15-minute The Word with Dr. Eric Lee.
Dude,
There it is.
yeah.
There it is. And then you just go on a monologue for 15 minutes just talking mad shit. All right, that's the show for this week, everybody. Let me close
I'm
it out.
prepared to do that. And we've gotten really like exciting things happening. Like this week has probably been, what is this, the second week of November. We had a businessman, and this goes back to what I wanted to say, or what I should have said earlier, but I didn't, about payment, because we had a businessman who does, sorry, I'm listening to the client. Okay, it sounds fine. um, so bring me back. What was I just saying?
Well, you said you meant to mention it earlier about payment.
Oh, right. There we go. Thank you.
Hmm.
I had a dinner with a businessman who does home mortgages, and he was like, "I want to contribute 5% of what we take into a psychedelic business because it's been a big part of my life." Um, and that is really amazing. That is another pair that probably, if you structure it right, they can bring the cost of treatment down. I suggested that they target groups to maximize their impact. They can probably get the cost of treatment down per head to like 150 or 200, and you don't want to get too much lower than that because then the client doesn't have any buy-in, and that's its own problem. But that's just incredible. Being able to offer that service for that price is just unheard of. And like that guy contacted me because of you. He heard our conversation on this show. So if you're just fucking dope and you do dope work, then other dope people will find you. Um, and then the day after we talked, I got in contact from NYU, New York University, and it was a member of their psychedelic research squad. And they were like, "We want to work with you." And she listed all the people in the lab that she works with, and they're famous. Like they are the guys in our field. I've read all of their work. I've read every single paper that they've written, and they probably know who I am. Like me specifically, the person that runs Space Clinic. Um, they really kissed my ass in that email too. It's just incredible. And like, I'm not. a fancy doctor. You know, I fully did not finish residency. I got kicked out of residency twice. So just the fact that I've like risen to this level through whatever weird path I took is just it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of that, and honestly, I didn't understand it until right before we got on the show because I realized the beginning of it started with Space Clinic, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. They,
Yeah,
I don't
Dear
think they're
Space
aware
Clinic
that we're a
team.
one person show,
Right, right.
but they will be aware soon.
Right. Yeah, no, that's super cool, super exciting, and I'm really looking forward to the future of that. And I'm really happy that because I know you, and if people go back, and I'll try to link the episodes we've had over the years. One thing that you always do when you come on the show, especially when we have like a specific topic you want to go through, right? You always bring research and citations and everything else. And so I already know you, like you were probably nerding out when you saw those names. And you're like, oh my God, I've read these people's papers and they want to work with me. Like, I'm sure for
Yeah.
you that made you really happy. So
It
I
made me
can only
extremely
imagine.
happy. And what they're asking me to do is like what I am most qualified to do, to like tell the experience of the clinic and explain like what factors of each person make them a good candidate or a bad candidate to receive this treatment. Those specific questions that are a little different from just can a person benefit from this? Like they're kind of next level and it's not really we're not in a hospital. We're not in like a really strict research setting. We're kind of in this halfway point. You know, I'm operating out of a former house. Um, there's a lot to be learned here. And it's just, you know, all the crazy shit you tell yourself in your head. Like, I'm doing this weird thing and I'm doing it different. And like, maybe if I'm lucky, like someday someone will notice. And they did.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Thank you.
I
And thank you for your help. You've always been you've always been on my side and I appreciate it.
yeah, no, I appreciate you, dude. You've helped. There's still people in the cannabis community that say like they still for a while they still thought you were in Green Mind Physicians. They're like, just go see Dr. Lee at Green Mind, and I didn't have the heart to tell him that like he's
No,
there in spirit.
you should be so happy to tell them that he exited the business. He sold out, and that's like exactly what you want to do in that situation.
Yeah, no,
You know
straight
their
up.
company does Ozempic now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the name Green Mind Physicians, which is obviously like, oh, we do medical marijuana cards, and like now they're branching out into other stuff, and I'm just
You
like,
get your
just
Ozempic card.
yeah, whatever, just do whatever you want, just keep me out of it.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I'll have to remember that just in case people on Illinois trees are saying they're struggling with their weight. I'll say, well, Green Mind Physicians can also get you your Ozempic.
You know, I
Anyways,
really
sorry.
don't recommend doing that online, but if you have to,
Yeah,
you at least have an option.
yeah. I know we didn't prepare to talk about Ozempic, but I feel like that I know this is like a cliche joke at this point, or I feel like it is, but I feel like there are going to be commercials in the future that are like, did you take Ozempic? Like, if so, you're entitled to cash compensation, like if you're suffering from this, this, and this, like there's just,
Sure.
there's just, I don't exactly know how it works, but I've heard that in some cases it can be miraculous. And to me, the people that talk about how they don't change their diet at all, but they lose them, there's like, you can't, there's no cheat code, like,
That's a pretty good parallel to psychedelic work, to be honest. You know, the people that expect the cheat code without any work is like it's what you try to get them to not do. You know,
correct.
people
Yeah.
I always say that like getting from a 4 to a 6 or whatever like mental health goals you have, like psychedelics won't do that. They'll give you like the roadmap for how to get from a 4 to a 6, but it's up to you to do it. So there's a shitload of work before and after. Um, so Ozempic is like the weight loss cheat code, I guess, but it doesn't make you feel the same way. It doesn't give you that same good feeling that psychedelics do.
No, no, it really
It makes
doesn't.
you feel
And I don't know, but
kind of, I don't know. I don't know enough. And to be perfectly honest, like after living in Portland for 2 years and like now I don't practice anymore, I gave up my licenses. Woo! So medical knowledge is like falling out of my brain like really
oh, okay.
fast.
Yeah.
And like I don't care. I'm never gonna practice again. And like every time I don't remember something, I'm like, good.
Yeah, I don't need that in my brain anymore. That's funny.
It
That's
is.
funny.
It's a good feeling.
It is clearing up space for things that, really matter for you. So, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we go? Any other cool things that have happened through the business? Anything we might not have thought of? I don't know. Any cool, heartwarming stories?
No, but I just let me yammer on like the mental journey I've had going through this thing because I really struggled with the structure of the business too at first because like I said I'm a good time guy, like I'll take psychedelics and go to a concert and that's how I benefit from them. So when I started this business I didn't really understand like why you would need to do it. I mean I was gonna get into it either way because it was legal psychedelics and I figured I would figure it out. Um, but having seen almost 200 clients at this point, the pattern is very, very clear. Like, there's a weird privilege that lets certain people access healing from psychedelics. Like, you've either been a really open minded person your whole life, or you're in touch with your feelings, or you grew up in Oregon where the culture is very pro psychedelic. Like, you have the right mix of things in you to benefit. And that is not the case for everyone. When you grow up in the Midwest, or if you're in a religious household, or if you like receive the wrong messaging, just say no shit for enough years, um, there's a lot to unpack. And so the conversation about like why that is, sure, but like it's what it is. There's a lot of people out there that just can't do psychedelics by themselves. They'll have a bad time, and it'll just put them in an even worse place. Um, so this really careful thing that we're doing, and like I'm constantly trying to hone and like make a little better for everyone. Um, there is really something to it. And it's maybe not for you or for me, but like it's for our moms and our aunts and like it's our weird cousins and stuff. Like there's people that it really does make sense for. And independent of that, it's just fucking incredible. The psychedelic experience is one of the best things you can do with your time on Earth. And if there's anyone that's listening to this that has not really come to that conclusion, when I kind of doubt, I'm not going to say that because we've gotten customers from you. Um, I'm glad you're thinking about it. That's all I always say when people call in and they're not like far enough along their process yet. I might give them some resources, but I say, I'm glad you're thinking about psychedelics. I'd be really happy if it was with us. But just in general, I'm happy when people are thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you on that. I mean, and to your point, like even myself who advocates for, you know, access to psychedelic substances, honestly, I advocate for the end of the war on drugs in general. But I still like I can't tell you the last time I've used mushrooms. I have mushrooms, but I can't tell you the last time I've actually consumed them.
I think that's kind of a
I
good
think,
thing.
yeah, I think that's notable. I use cannabis daily. Um, I love mushrooms. Like it's honestly one of my favorite feelings I've ever experienced. Like that glow that you get after you peak. I know I'm using a lot of verbs that or words that maybe if people haven't experienced it, they may not understand, but I feel like you do. And yeah, like I say, it's like one way I've described it, and I've even heard it described. It's like it reminds me of what I felt like as a kid when I didn't have like anything to worry about. And I could just like focus on being whoever I was and thinking about and like having an imagination and like, you know what I mean? Like all these magical things that you lose when you have to get into the grind. And like,
Yeah, we replace
even,
that with a lot of things that we build up, like anxiety and
yeah, but it's
all
funny
these
when
like
I,
complex things that kind of take the place of those.
when I tell somebody that it's the best feeling I've ever had, though, they're like, "That sounds like you just tried heroin." I'm like, "But you have to understand that I don't want to do it frequently. Do I want to do it in the future? Absolutely. But for some reason, I'm not called, like, I respect it. I don't understand. Like, that's the best way I could put it is I respect psilocybin,
Yeah, that's really great. And I think there's definitely
if that
something
makes
to that.
sense.
It's part of how we like naturally are. You can't really do psychedelics on consecutive days. It loses its punch. So it does have this like natural non-addictiveness that's kind of key to its identity. That's why it's slightly different from the other substances that we love so much. I'm still a daily marijuana user, even though I'm on the edibles now. And psychedelics are just not something that you should be fucking with routinely, like weekly, few times a month. That to me, that's too much. Um, I've compared psychedelic work to Inception, the movie, so many times. Just like a lot of the insights that if you're going to have a good insight, it needs to come from you, not from me. And then the other thing is like it's a problem for them when they spend too much time on the other side because they lose track. And then psychedelics is really the same thing. Like the world that we live in is this one, it's not the psychedelic one. We go there to get better at living this one.
Well said. Well, I think we should, unless you have anything else to say, I think we should end on that note.
No, that one sounded cool. Let's stop.
Let's stop it right there. Well, folks, I hope you found as much value in this conversation as I did. We'll see you in the next episode of The Cole Memo. Thank you, Dr. Lee. We'll see you.
Thank you. Bye.